Okay, so this is a piece of clay that's 1.5 pounds. I usually use 1.5 pounds for mugs. So I just cut this off the block so it doesn't need wedging, but I'll put it into a more of a circular shape before I put it down on the bat. You don't want to have any places on the bottom that have any places that can trap air. So you want the bottom to be kind of cone, you know, doesn't matter about the top because I'm going to fix that. This is the bottom. Put it down on the bat. So I'm going to center it first. When I center, I usually cone it a couple of times or bring it up to a point. It's just easier to center the clay when you have a smaller amount to work out when it's tall like that, and then bring it back down to the shape you want to open it up. It's not quite centered. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to open the center. So I put my thumbs, let me go that way a little bit. So I put my thumbs right in the center, press down. So I've dropped the hole, center hole. I'm going to open it up just a little. And I'm just kind of eyeballing the depth right now to see how, because I don't know how, I'll check the bottom in just a second. Open it up. Turn off the wheel. Take my pen tool and check and see how thick the bottom is right now. I go for about 1/4 inch thickness on the bottom. It's a little thick, not much. So I'll smooth this out. You don't really ever want water standing in the bottom either, because it's just going to absorb down in there and make it harder to dry, and then it has a possibility of a crack. So check the bottom again. That's just right. So now I'm going to go ahead and open it up just a little bit more. Smoothing the bottom, compressing the bottom. Open it up a little more. Smooth the bottom back out again, make it good and flat, right all the way over to the side. A lot of people make the mistake of having this side right here will be like a good flat, like a slant, and you really want your bottom to go ahead and open that bottom all the way up to the side, so you got a whole flat bottom all the way across. Then wet the sides, so I'm going to start bringing it up now. Make a groove around the bottom, right around the bottom where I could get my sponge in to bring up the sides. I had already wet the sides. Also, my speed is a little bit slower now when I'm bringing it up. Take several pulls to bring up the sides. I'm also going to wet the outside again and choke it back in. Because if it's going to be a mug, well, really anything you make, you want to keep it in a cylinder like this, a complete cylinder, a cylinder straight up, or even going in some, because with it spinning, it's going to automatically, when you come up, it's automatically going to open out. So you force it back in before you bring it up again. Wet everything again, get the water right off the bottom, all the inside. Make my groove on the bottom again, so I have a place to start, put my sponge to start up. And pressing from the inside and the outside, kind of equal. Also, my hands are touching. When I'm in here, my hands are touching each other the whole time to brace each other and have some pressure, and it just helps steady you some. Again, it's flared out a little, so I'm going to choke it back in so I keep my mug shape. I don't want to have a bowl, but even if it were going to be a bowl, I would keep it this shape until I was finished bringing it up, and then I would shape it, because the more you have it coming up, the more apt it is you might lose it before you're ready for it to be shaped. So it's back in shape again, getting the water out of the inside, off the bottom only, but I'm actually going to still wet the sides of the inside and the outside. Make another groove on the bottom. Bring it up really slowly. You want it to go around several times on each time so that you're touching the whole thing. If you come up too fast, you'll have uneven places where you've pressed in too much on each spot. Getting the water back out. Choke back in. But you have to have it really wet on the outside when you're going to choke it, and your hands need to be wet too. A lot of times you want to, if I need to choke at down here, you start at the bottom to choke and you just move up slowly. Your hands are wrapped all the way around it. If it were too big, I could just put my hands out here and still press to choke it in if it were a larger piece. Wet it. Hit my groove on the bottom. This is probably the last pull up. You put a good bit of pressure at the bottom, but then as you come up the piece, you let your pressure off, because the clay gets thinner and easier to work with the higher you go. Okay, I'm not going to pull it up anymore, and all I have now is just a straight cylinder for a mug. If you just want a straight mug, just apply a little pressure around this rim. You don't want to have a rough rim for anybody to put their mouth on, so you just kind of smooth that out. Get the water out again. If you look down inside, you'll see the bottom is still pretty smooth. Sometimes you can, if your clay that you use has sand or grog in it, sometimes that will be you can feel that on the bottom. If you take your finger and just press down in there, you can press that sand back down into the clay so it won't be in there. Okay, so if this was just going to be a straight up and down mug, I would stop. But if I were going to give it some shape, sometimes I'll give them a little shape. I'll show you how I would shape this one. My hands are wet, but not overly wet. Reach in and, actually I'd use my sponge. Reach inside and apply a little pressure at the bottom to give it a little bulge right here at the bottom. I'm putting just a little bit of pressure. And then my hands are wet, and I will come up and I'm going to choke in a little right here. Then look at it to see. If I don't like, if the top is a little too flared out, you just choke in a little more on the edge of the top. And now I have one with a little bit of a shape. If I didn't like that, you just as easily push that right back out. You can straighten, while it's at this stage, you can pretty much make it any shape you want. I think I like this, so I'm going to stop. That's it.